Good day, students. I'm Dr. Rachna Mathur, and BA Part 2 students or BA Part 2 students, we are revising the poem The Lotus Eaters. The Lotus Eaters is a poem by Alfred Tennyson, first Baron Tennyson, published in Tennyson's 1832 poetry collection. It was inspired by his trip to Spain with his close friend Arthur Hallam, where they visited the Pyrenees Mountains. The poem describes a group of mariners who, upon eating the lotus, are put into an altered state and isolated from the outside world. The title and concept derives from the lotus eaters in Greek mythology. So I am repeating. The poem describes a group of mariners who, upon eating the lotus, are put into an altered state and isolated from the outside world. The title and concept derives from the lotus eaters in Greek mythology. Now we will discuss the themes of the poem. The form of the poem contains a dramatic monologue with which connects it to the Ulysses, Saint Simeon's Twilights, and Rizpha. However, Tennyson changes the monologue format to allow for ironies to be revealed. The story of the lotus eaters comes from Homer's The Odyssey. However, the story of the mariners in Homer's work has a different effect from Tennyson's, since the latter's mariners are able to recognize morality. Their arguments are also connected to the words spoken by Despair in Edmund Spenser's The Faerie Queene, Book 1. With the connection to Spenser, Tennyson's story depicts the mariners as going against Christianity. However, the reader is the one who is in the true dilemma. As literary critic James R. Kinsey argues, the final irony is that both the courageous Ulysses and the mariners who eat the lotus have an easier time of it than the reader. They at least can make choices and dissolve the tension. Tennyson ironically invokes the lover's tale, line 118, quote, a portion of the pleasant yesterday, in line 92 of the Lotus Eaters, portions and parcels of the dreadful past, unquote. In the reversal, the idea of time as a protector of an individual is reversed to depict time as the destroyer of the individual. There is also a twist of the traditionally comic use of repetition within the refrain, quote, let us alone, unquote, which is instead used in a desperate and negative manner. The use of irony within the Lotus Eaters is different from Tennyson's The Lady of Shalott, since the lady lacks control over her life. The mariners within the Lotus Eaters are able to make an argument, and they argue that death is a complement of life. This is important. I am repeating. The mariners within the lotus eaters are able to make an argument, and they argue that death is a completion of life. With this argument, they push for a release of tension that serves only to create more tension. Thus, the mariners are appealing yet unappealing at the same time. The structure, the lotus eaters, is somewhere between the form of Oinon and the Hesperids. In terms of story, the lotus eaters is not obscure like the Hesperids, nor as all encompassing as Oinon, but it still relies on the frame like the other two. The frame is like the Hesperids as it connects two different types of reality, one of separation and one of being connected to the world. Like Oinon, the frame outlines the song within the poem and it allows the existence of two different perspectives that can be mixed at various points within the poem. The perspective of the mariners is connected to the perspective of the reader in a similar way found in the Hesperides, and the reader is called to follow that point of view to enjoy the poem. As such, the reader is a participant within the work, but they are not guided by Tennyson to a specific answer. As James Kincaid argues, in this poem, the reader takes over the role of a voyager, the mariner renounced using sympathy for a sail and judgment for a rudder. And if, as many have argued, the poem is about the conflict between isolation and communality, this meaning emerges in the process of reading. The poem discusses the tension between isolation and being a member of a community. This is important. The poem discusses the tension between isolation and being a member of a community, which also involves the reader of the poem. In the song, there are many images that are supposed to appeal to the reader. This allows for a sympathy with the mariners. When the mariners ask why everything else besides them are allowed peace, it is uncertain as to whether they are asking about humanity in general or only about their own state of being. The reader is disconnected at that moment from the mariner, especially when the reader is not able to escape into the world of bliss that comes from eating lotus. As such, the questioning is transformed into an expression of self pity. The reader is able to return to being sympathetic with the mariners when they seek to be united with the world. They describe a system of completion, life unto death, similar to Keats to autumn. I am repeating, this is important. They describe a system of completion, life unto death, similar to Keats to autumn. But then they reject the system altogether. Instead, they merely want death without having to experience growth and completion before death. I am repeating because it is important. Instead, they merely want death without having to experience growth and completion before death. So, students, try to write in your own words. Thank you, students.